I'm a senior operations director at Jellyfish. I have a presentation to introduce you more to me and Jellyfish and how we're using Salesforce, why we look to implement CPQ and CLM specifically, our quote to contract or cash, and I'll kind of go through that later, our solution. I'll give you a little demo behind the scenes of how it all works and end with some lessons learned, which I think can be applicable to just about any kind of engagement, maybe not even specific to Salesforce, just things that we've learned on our journey. As I said before, I'm a senior director on our global operations team. I work out of our Baltimore office. We're headquartered in the UK in London. I've been with Jellyfish for 11 years, and I'm the product owner for Salesforce. So at Jellyfish, that means that I am responsible for being the face of the platform, making sure that people understand the vision and the objectives, working with our stakeholders to develop what's most important and valuable to the business, and managing that roadmap alongside the guy in the canoe, who is Adam Hay. He is the product owner for Financial Force. So we very much work closely together, and this was taken at Dreamforce. It was the first Dreamforce for both of us. And I'm glad I had someone to navigate that experience with. So it was a ton of fun. Probably a little too much fun. I think I slept the entire flight home, but it was a good week. So who is Jellyfish? If you would have asked me this question 10 years ago, I would have said we're a digital marketing agency, but we don't call ourselves an agency anymore. We call ourselves a digital marketing partner. The way we work with our clients and our tech partners is really important to us. We see ourselves as an extension of our clients' team, filling in the gaps where they need help. We're focused on brand, so helping companies acquire new customers, keep them engaged, helping them sell more. And we're versed across all facets of digital marketing. So we are a global company. We started out in the UK, and now we've grown to a little over 2,100 employees across the globe. We also have an extensive freelancer network that we utilize. We're in, I think it's 40 international offices now. Collectively across our client base, we manage over $1 billion in managed media. And we really do this through our partnerships, which I'll go into on the next slide. And we do everything when it comes to digital marketing, brand strategy, any kind of paid media, earned media, creative services, development, analytics. I know I'm probably missing some, but basically if it's online, we do it. We've really grown over the years. I think when I joined, I was employee number 80 something, and now we're over 2,100, which is crazy. But a lot of the growth is attributed to the partnerships that we have. We are the longest standing Google marketing partner, and they're their largest reseller of both tech and cloud products. We offer a lot of training in conjunction with Google, and you can see here we partner with Meta, Amazon, Snap, Salesforce, etc. It's a really interesting relationship with Salesforce. So obviously, we're one of their customers, they're one of our clients, and we are also certified in Marketing Cloud. So it's kind of wild, but we don't use Marketing Cloud, and that's probably a story for another day. So here are some of the partners that we work with, or our clients basically. A lot of these brands are global, so it's kind of interesting to see creative in other languages. It's really cool. this was probably maybe 2018, back when we actually were all in the office. And I was walking past our creative team and I saw all the Trailhead characters and I stopped and went, what are you guys working on? And that's when we started working for Trailhead as one of our clients. So it was really cool to see the things that they were building. So we have just Sales Cloud and Financial Force, and we really manage those two collectively. We have users who get the two confused all the time. So we mostly just call it Salesforce because it would be too long to explain to a user that, oh, technically you're in Financial Force, whatever. Everyone in the company is on Financial Force, at least for the basics of tracking their time and submitting expenses. And then we have other users who are a little more involved with other PSA functionality when it comes to resource management and project management. For Sales Cloud, we have our marketing, sales, client-facing teams, project management, and because of our integration with CLM, finance and legal teams using the platform, and then leadership for all of their dashboard reporting. And then these integrations are the most important. We use HubSpot for marketing, e-signature, which we've been on longer than we've been on Salesforce, CLM, and then I'll give you a little demo today of a product e-commerce tool that we've built on force.com. And that was actually built since we initially implemented CPQ and CLM. So I'll give you a demo of how all of those work together. So how did we get to CPQ and CLM? I could have just written two things on this slide. Stop sending quotes with incorrect pricing. Make sure legal reviews any changes to terms and conditions. I mean, that's really, if we distill it down, what we were trying to do. So from a commercial aspect, we were going through a lot of change as an organization. To that point, we had three, I won't say siloed, but we had, you could take our services and put them into three different groups. We had the marketing services that I talked about earlier, and then we're a reseller of Google Tech. And then we have our own training team where we'll train professionals, whether it's an individual or we'll work with clients to train a team of people, and they can take online or in-person courses. So our sales team, you had people who could sell one of those or maybe two of those really well, but we really had salespeople who were specialized. So because of that, the way we had products configured and price books was by those three groupings of products. So as we grew as an organization and we started to attract clients that wanted a little bit of everything, all of a sudden the sales team is complaining because for one engagement, they're creating 2 or 3 opportunities. It just didn't make sense. So we wanted to fix that. We also wanted to understand our net profit contribution. So we have, depending on the market, a certain percentage where if we're quoting something, it should be at this number or above. Well, we want to be able to approve things that might be below that by people who can say, okay, we can make this exception because. And then, just we wanted to have these processes in place. Everything was really manual. Like, seriously, it was just like, let's send an email and hope that I get a response back. I mean, it was crazy to think about where we were before we set on this journey. And then from a legal perspective, the same thing. They were finding out about contracts after they were signed, and all of a sudden, there is an omission of a really important clause that now puts us at risk. I could tell you stories that are just kind of incredible to think about now, but there was a case where someone, instead of generating a new contract, took one that they already had, did a search and replace for the client name, sent it out for signature, but this contract we had negotiated specific terms, so it wasn't our standard contract. So things like that we were really trying not to do. And again, just having more automation, making sure that we pull in the right people at the right time. So these were the primary KPIs. I actually had a full spreadsheet and multiple ways to measure each one because of the nature of our company, and we're very performance driven. I had to be able to show that, yes, we hit our goals and progress along the way. So we were looking to decrease the time that it took someone to get an approval, whether that was commercial or legal. Having some visibility. What quotes have we gotten approved that are below our targets? What contracts are out for signature? Just things that seem so simple, yet we weren't doing. And just, again, making sure that we're not doing things offline and we're doing them in a way that's automated and trackable. Why CPQ? I'll be honest, I don't think we even really considered anything else, which I'm surprised, because even at that time, our procurement team made us evaluate at least 3 solutions. Anytime we're going for a new platform, we have to look at least 3. But for whatever reason, was there a question? Okay. Yeah, so I don't know how we got away with this, but CPQ met the requirements of everything that we were looking for. We wanted to leverage data that we were already collecting. Everyone, like I get so annoyed, not so much now, but I can remember when my daughter was younger and you would get an email from the school asking for the same information they already have. So we wanted to leverage the data that we already collected.
Yeah, I had a quick question. Is CPQ separate, like SKU? Like, do you have to pay for it, or is it comes with? It doesn't come with Sales Cloud, right?
It is extra. Now it is part of Revenue Cloud. Okay. So I'm not sure what the list price is, but I know it's probably about 75% of a Sales Cloud license. Okay. So it's an investment. Yeah. Yeah. We really liked the ability to bundle products, especially since we, at the time we did the initial implementation, we were starting our productization journey. So it just really made sense that we could have a platform that had rules. Think about Amazon. People that purchase this already also purchased that. So we wanted that kind of functionality and being able to have features and options across like products. And then, of course, pricing rules. The Google tech is so complicated. I don't think I can even demo and explain it. It's that complicated. Most of it has to do with different tiers and usage, and there's so many factors that go into it. I still can't believe we used to do this in a spreadsheet. Actually, I can, because now we still do some things in spreadsheets that we shouldn't, but we just needed a way to automate that. And the approvals for discounts was just so super important. With contract management, this was new to us. Our head of legal counsel had worked with an application in the past, so she was kind of familiar, but our team, this was all new. So we started by looking at the solutions that were on the Forrester Wave report, which was really great. From there, we looked at 4 solutions, and then based on price and integration points. We eliminated 2. So for 2 solutions, we evaluated them with demos and pricing proposals, all of that. And we selected CLM because we felt it was a better fit for the workflow functionality that we were looking for. The UI just seemed to be cleaner. I think part of that, in all honesty, had to do with the solutions engineer for the competitor. So for CLM, they asked if they could do a little pre-demo with me, and I could go through and go, oh yeah, highlight this area. Oh no, we don't care about this. So when it came to the final demo with all of the stakeholders, it really was tailored for what we were looking for. The other competitor didn't do that. So they spent time on things and we were like, we don't care about that. And then at that time, DocuSign was acquiring Spring CM. And we thought, well, you know, we've been on e-signature for a really long time. Everyone likes that platform. It's easy to use. It just made sense. So at launch, here's like kind of like the where we were and the before and the after. So I talked about the price books before. So what we did is consolidated. So we had one price book per region, and the sales team could sell services and tech and training all in one opportunity, which they were very happy about. Instead of adding products to opportunities, now quotes are added to opportunities and products are on this quotes. Automated approvals, it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. So we have CPQ automation for quote pricing approvals, and then CLM automation for the legal approvals. And we moved away from having invoicing and payment schedules at the opportunity level to having that at the quote product level, which makes sense because we're gonna treat like a training course different than, you know, managing a multi-million-dollar media account. The invoicing and the payment schedule is going to be a little bit different. So that just gave us the granularity that we needed. And then from the contract side, we had all of our templates stored in Google Template Gallery. Now they're dynamically generated through CLM. Redlining moves from offline to automated. The number of contract templates, it's crazy. So all of our regions operate as a separate entity. So in the Google Template Gallery, you would have, just looking at English contracts alone, you would have one for each entity, and then you would have 2, because are we including Google's terms and conditions or not? And all of the contracts had to be separate because there's a clause that says, that references where the entity is governed, like by what country laws. So you would have, I'm trying to think how many we had, I don't know, 40 versions of the MSA, and now we have one template, one, for all of our MSAs. So that has really made it a lot more streamlined. And then terms and conditions, we probably, I would say our legal team has updates maybe 2 or 3 times a year, just depending on what's changing. More so lately, it seems, with GDPR, but we're able to update those in CLM. So the next time a contract's generated, it'll have the new terms and conditions, and we can even track what's been in process with the old terms and conditions. So we're able to pinpoint, okay, we've changed the T's and C's on this date. These 10 MSAs are out for contract on our old terms and conditions. So that's something now that we can track really easily, which is fantastic. And the legal team actually knows what's floating out there before it's signed, which again seems so simple, yet it really wasn't happening. So where we are now, we've introduced many, many releases. We deploy twice a month, so depending on the priority. For the bigger launches, we do set a date and work to a big deployment. I mentioned before that we went through this change of productization, introducing the product portal, which I'll show. So ideally, users would start there. That order would generate a Salesforce quote, and from there, in Salesforce, you would start the contract process. We've also integrated to Financial Force. So QTC to us used to stand for quote to contract, but now it's really evolving in quote to cash. There's a lot of work right now to introduce revenue recognition in Financial Force, which I am so excited about. It's really going to help us close the loop in a lot of the reporting that we do outside of the two systems. And we've reintroduced our statement of work. So as we've productized our offerings, we've changed what those templates look like. And we actually just launched this new SOW at the end of February. So that's what I'm going to demo today. And any questions before I jump into the product?
Can you elaborate on the role of Financial Force in your process?
Yes. So if I go back to here, so the way it works now is that when an opportunity is set to closed won, depending on the opportunity type, because we have types that are related to brand new clients, and then we have types that are related to existing clients. If it's brand new, it creates new projects in Financial Force, and we do migrate data from the opportunity into the project. So the team, the revenue ops team that picks up that project has less manual entry, and that's actually something we're continuously working on. So we're hoping by the end of the year, they won't have to do very much besides just kind of glance through and check everything. And then from there, we're using Financial Force to do all of our resource management. So projects are resourced, and then we also use the projects to track milestones and completions. I'm not as familiar with that side of it. I'll get a little vague once we get to the closed one, but we're really using Financial Force for resource management, project management, time tracking, utilization, that type of functionality.
Sounds like we need to invite your colleague to do a Financial Force demo for us.
He would love that.
Yeah, I actually worked on implementation of Financial Force too, so everything you're saying sounds accurate. Yeah. We also have one more question from Barbara. I'm happy to read it, Barbara, but feel free to jump in to clarify anything. You asked, do you put all your product pricing in the product and price books, or do you have pricing on a separate custom table that CPQ can pull from?
Yes, we have a custom object that has a lot of the pricing in it, and that's because it's very complicated. Especially the Google tech, it's very involved. But yeah, we do have a custom pricing table.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Sure.
So then do you not use price books at all? It just flows right to the product, the pricing?
That is probably a question I can't answer, as I'm not quite as versed in that. We do have price books for each region, and then pricing for all of the currencies that we sell in those regions.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So this is the product for paid media, and actually, let me change to, I'm missing a very important tab being there. Let's try this again. Oops, I spelled products right, there we go. Okay. So I mentioned before that our e-commerce tool is built on force.com. All of the details that you see here, you'll see in that user-facing e-commerce tool. And then if I click on related, this is the setup where, depending on the product type, we'll have, I'd say, anywhere from 2 to maybe at most 5 different feature groups, and then options within those features. So let's say that we offer 2 different types of onboarding packages, whether you want, the bare minimum or, the full treatment. You would see 2 options here for onboarding. And I really don't know why I would put features first on the page layout, but that's just me. But then this controls what you see, the options that you see in each feature. Questions refers to guided selling, and we started building the product portal, I think, prior to when guided selling was launched. So if we didn't have our own custom solution, we would have questions here. You'll just see those in a different area. And then configuration attributes, which refer to fields that you can ask within the quote configurator, and then all of the price book entries, and then the knowledge products. So this has kind of that Amazon functionality where I've bought this item and it tells me, oh, people that bought that item also bought this one. It's the same kind of thing that if I'm a user and I'm adding a product to the cart, it's going to tell me, oh, your client might also be interested in this. And then I wanted to show one of the workflows, not to scare anyone, but when we implemented CLM, we really had no idea what we were getting into. I mean, it's a lot. We have 2 workflows on the back end because we have client contract automations at the opportunity level and then at the quote level. So this is the MSA and NDA, which runs off the opportunity object. And I just wanted to give you an idea of what this looks like. Yeah, I love this one because the implementation consultant just was so great at organizing and color coding, and it really helps when you're troubleshooting errors where you can go, okay, so I need to come into the section for external review. It just makes it a lot easier, but we had no idea it was going to be this complex. It's kind of like, when you start working with Visio and you have this blank canvas and you can drag and drop, but to like the 1000th power. But it's the same concept where you customize everything and from the beginning. So it's a lot. I thought I would also show, while I am here, how CLM is configured at a high level. So with document generation, you have configurations that basically is a collection of what contract templates are you leveraging, what workflow should be launched when the user clicks on one of those templates, and what Salesforce object is this configured for. And then these URLs are what you would link in the buttons on the page layouts. So you click a button, it launches this URL, and now you have everything in CLM. So that's kind of at a very high level how it works. And then with forms, so we'll just click on the MSA. Again, it's a blank canvas where you add fields for the user to complete. You can have dependencies between fields. You can make things required. Here you can see all of the fields that link to Salesforce. You can group things, which is a nice way to make the forms a little easier to read. And then these merge tags are the tags that get copied in the Word templates. So that's how it's kind of all connected. There's lots of opportunity for failure if there's one little typo or anything like that. So yeah, so that's CLM in a very high level. So I will go ahead and show CPQ like out of the box. Here's how we were using it before we had our own e-commerce tool. And then I will show what it looks like with the pet tool. If I start with my paid media opportunity, and again, I'm in our sandbox, which has a lot of fields that users don't see. So I swear it's not this cluttered in production, but you can see here a link to quotes, and you can have more than one quote if you are, let's say that your client has a range for their budget and they want to know what they can get for their lower range and their higher range. You could do 2 different quotes and then decide which one is the primary that you're going to move forward with for pricing. So I am just going to create a new quote. And in production, users would not see these 2 buttons. So we have it configured so the pricing needs to be approved. And then once that happens, there's a new page layout that has these 2 buttons. So that ensures that no one can get to the contract generation phase until they have that pricing approved. Actually, clicked on the wrong thing. I want to edit lines. And add products. And you can add more than one or multiple products at the same time. One of the things that users find a little bit confusing, let's say that I order or I select 2, is you're only presented with one product at a time to configure. So initially when we launched, a lot of users were like, I don't know how to get to my second product to configure that. And it's telling me that I haven't selected things I need to select. It's this little tray here. So not the most intuitive, but that was probably one of the major questions when we launched initially. So before I was talking about configurable attributes, that's what you see here. I'm going to say that they spend 50 million a year. I can choose whether I want this to be custom. I'm going to leave that by itself. And then the other thing that tripped up users was this little wrench here. If you see that, you need to click on it because there's more configuration that needs to be done for that product. So prior to our product e-commerce tool, users are working with a project manager outside of Salesforce, figuring out all of the inputs for these products. Now that we're in a productized world, that a lot of that's done for them, which is why we're encouraging people to use this. I'm going to go with, we'll just say this one, search. Okay. So this looks good. I'm going to go here. We're going to say this is for 12. And then you can see the way we've configured this is that we have to sell onboarding and management, but there are some additional services that we could offer the client if they're interested. So hopefully yay, I didn't miss anything. So here, this is where outside of Salesforce, the user, which is probably someone on our sales team, or if it's an existing client, our project management team is responsible for any quoting of additional services. They would be figuring out all of these hours and costs in our e-commerce tool. It's all automated based on questions that we ask. So it is a lot easier. What I have found is that people that have been with the business for a while who really understand our products are more likely to come in here and create a quote. Newer users are like, this is a lot. I'm going to use the e-commerce tool that does a lot of this for me. So it's been great for us onboarding new people to Jellyfish, not having them have to get into the weeds as much. I'm going to make up a bunch of stuff here. I'm going to say this is 100 hours. Onboarding, let's say 40. I'm just going to go 40 for everything. And I want to make sure that my net profit contribution is high enough. So this is probably way off. Start date, we're going to go with 1st of May. We're looking for 12 months of service. I'm not going to offer an additional discount. So hopefully I'm going to click calculate and it's not going to tell me I missed anything. Fantastic. Uh-oh. Did I miss one? I did. All right. Did I miss? Additional discount. Oh, all right. You see, I don't typically come in here and create quotes. But this will be coming from a tool that we use externally to calculate all of these things. So hopefully this will, yay, okay. So there should be a field here that tells me what my MPC is. It's probably something absolutely ridiculous. If I were to submit this for approval and my MPC is below the target for that region, it's going to prompt me with a dialog box that says, give your context. So, you know, sometimes being below the target is fine. Maybe this is the first engagement with a client and we know that if we do a good job, they're going to bring us in to work with another brand within the company, or they're going to want additional services. So that is the hard way. And you really need to understand product configuration to create the quote. in the new world, if I select our product portal, now I can see any kind of product that we want to highlight. And then this is all data from Salesforce and CPQ. So these are the names of the price books, all of the products within those. If I click on paid media, I can see an overview. And again, this is coming from the knowledge object, information about that. We have links to other assets and things internally. I have all of my learning and onboarding, so training guides, videos, examples of delivery templates and SOW templates. Really, we wanted to have one place where users could kind of self-serve and upskill themselves on whatever products they may not be as familiar with. And again, you know, the nature of our client base has changed so much. It's not anymore, oh, I want to use you for your Google Tech. They want these larger engagements that span across, you know, managed services, tech services, training. So now our sales team has gone from being, you know, well-versed in a specific area to having to know a little bit about everything. So we wanted a place where they could leverage everything we have about our products in one place. So now if I were to configure my quote from here, you'll see it's a much prettier interface where these are still questions that I was being asked before. And I think I said like 50 million spend, etc. And again, what this will do once I select my currency, once I go through the steps of adding my products and I'm ready to create a quote, I have to link this order to an opportunity. So if I select a currency here that doesn't match the currency on the opportunity, I get an error message. So that's just to ensure that it's actually going to give you pricing. The reason why with the automated SOW that we are requiring users to start from the order is that all of these guided selling questions are built here, not in CPQ. So if I were to generate the SOW based on just a quote, I'm going to be missing these important inputs that actually print out in the deliverable section of the SOW. So we're hoping that encourages people to start here when they're building a new quote. So I would continue to customize and configure. And again, I could just go up and select different products to add to my order. I am going to shortcut to an order that I've already created to show you, because I know that I don't have permissions here to approve any new quote that I create. So here's one that has been created and approved. I have a link to the quote. I can quickly see what all is on this. So I have 3 products. Actually, this is not the one I wanted to show. This is the one I wanted to show. Okay, quote created. So I can see the breakdown of services versus technology. And that will become important when we get to the SOW creation. And from here, I can click on the quote button to go back into quotes. And now I'm ready to go ahead and generate my SOW. So these 2 buttons link to CLM, and they have 2 different ways to generate a contract. This one is going to leverage the template and build that document. We have this upload for the exceptions. So 90% of what we do as a business should go through the automation, but you always have those special clients where we're really building something custom. In that case, the user would get the SOW template from, I call them the guardians. There's like maybe 5 people in the business that have the template. And they would create something custom and upload it here. And that immediately goes to that group of people for review before it even gets to the commercial team or the legal team for any approvals that would be needed. Again, that's really 10% of what we do, but we wanted to have everyone follow the process. So things are all in the same place. So that's why we built the exception in here. So now what this is doing is opening up, I want to discard and start over, the form that I showed before where we're presenting questions to the user. We're trying to bring in as much data as we can. So again, just trying to make it a little quicker for users to create a quote. We have the ability to bundle things. So after our initial launch, some of the feedback was, listen, in these bigger engagements, we're having like CMOs sign contracts. The last thing they want to do is have 2 different DocuSign envelopes to look for. How can we build everything into one document so they get one envelope, they sign it, and we're not chasing people that are really busy to sign the contract. So we created the ability to build different documents and kind of put them all in this little hold area and then say, okay, I'm ready to send the envelope. And it looks to see everything that's on hold and puts it into one DocuSign envelope. So that has been an enhancement that people have really appreciated. Payment terms, the way this works, we have different terms depending on the services. If I would have had a technology product on this quote, then I would have a second field for technology payment terms. Same with training. And we have our defaults on the account records that are read-only. Only our finance team can change payment terms. And if we were to negotiate special terms with a client, let's say that they're on 45 days, you would see 45 here. It's going to know and reference any kind of exceptions that have already been approved. If I were to change this from the default to 45, it's going to ask me why. And once I complete this form, now we're initiating an automated workflow where this document is going to go directly to our commercial team. The user can't send it for signature. They can't do anything else until the commercial team signs off. So this has been amazing because our commercial team we have 1 person in the US, the rest is in the UK. And something always happens at the end of business in the West Coast. It's just always what happens. So having this automated and being able to send to a group of people at the same time, it's not getting lost in one person's inbox. It's being seen by the people that need to see it. And things are just happening a lot faster than they used to. I'm going to change that back so I don't trigger that review. And again, it's looking to see, okay, who's the opportunity or the quote owner in this case, who is the account lead. This is another automation that would route it to legal if necessary. Since we've already sent the MSA through the process, we bring back that data from CLM into Salesforce and we can leverage it here. So I think the SOW references the MSA date, have it in here, user doesn't need to do anything. This would trigger a legal review if we were requesting custom language. And then I would continue to create my form. This is, by the way, our largest client, Peter Test Company. Coincidence that Peter is the name of our CPQ admin. Go figure. And this is actually, Peter Test Company is in our production environment and what we use for smoke testing. So our commercial and legal teams are quite familiar. It's the one company that is excluded from all opportunity and revenue reports. So we had someone create a test record with a completely new account. And I was like, no, please no, just Peter Test Company, that's it. So these are inputs that will print in the deliverable section, and they relate back to the questions when I was configuring the quote as to how many websites, regions, and languages. One of the enhancements that I do believe is in a deployment in May is to actually show read only the inputs from that product setup, so users don't have to go back and kind of toggle between the order to see, oh, it's 2 regions, what are they? That is coming soon. But to this point, all of this information, the header, the client information, the project information, we're pulling from Salesforce where we can, and it's standard for any SOW that's generated. And then now when you start to see the products, this is all of the dynamic content where it's only going to show you sections for the products that are on the quote. So it's quite nice the way that works. Finish putting in my inputs here. And then at the bottom, this displays depending on more information that I had configured in the order in terms of whether, how often we're invoicing, and then it breaks down these by the product setup. So all of our products are tagged as either being fixed or recurring. So the user can't change this. This is coming from the approved price quote. If it's wrong, they've got to start the process again. But we wanted to show it here so users could 100% make sure, okay, yes, this is correct. It's just a visual kind of checkpoint. And then the last thing I do is select who's signing. And from there, it generates the preview. Which takes always longer than I think it should. On the back end, our SOW Word template is 245 pages because of our extensive product catalog. So the SOW takes a lot longer to generate than some of the other documents. So a little on the massive side. And then I can show what that looks like too, if there's any interest. So from here, I get a preview of what this is going to look like. If I scroll down through, I can see these are the inputs from the form. A lot of this wasn't even in the form, and that's because this is what the business has determined is what we are delivering. You know, that's the whole point of productization, is we're going to standardize things. So each time we create a quote, we're not starting from scratch. So we only give users the opportunity to change things that legal and commercial are fine with, not having to need to review. So let's just make that part of the template that can't be changed. So in the event that I was talking before about the bespoke SOW, we would use that if we had decided, okay, you know what, the standard is that we have email responses within 24 hours. If we decided with a client that we're going to have email responses within 8 hours, or there's things like that, we do have a way that we can make minor changes. But if we're completely changing how we're delivering, or if it's not even like a product per se, it's a huge engagement with lots of different things, that's when we would use that bespoke upload option. So there's our lovely form. And then once this completes, again, it always takes, especially when I'm giving a demo, I feel like I have a lot of dead space to fill. All right. So now if I go back to my quote, all of the documents live here in this Spring CM section, hopefully. There we go. You can tell this is my test record. So this is the one that I just created. If I had changed those payment terms and it had gone to finance for review, you would see that in the description. So we tried to build in where in the process things are to increase that visibility. So legal can come in here and say, okay, great, this is, I can see this is coming, whatever. If I click on my document, let me just drag this over here. We have all of, oh, actually, let me click on activity first. So this is another place where you can see where the document is in the workflow. And then if I click on tasks, we've basically said, okay, you have created a statement of work. You haven't changed anything that would trigger a commercial review. You haven't changed anything that would trigger a legal review. We are fine with you now sending this for signature. So this has been such a time saver because now those teams aren't reviewing everything. And then once I click to send for e-signature, it's going to leverage whatever e-signature platform you're on. So I think CLM out of the box works with 4 different platforms, Adobe, whatever HelloSign is now, DocuSign, and then you can see my documents, who's receiving it. I have the ability to change the subject in the message. So this basically is e-signature, and it's been great for our users because they already understand how e-signature works. So once they get to this point, they're like, oh yeah, super familiar, no problem. So from here, I would click send, and away my document goes. Questions?
Okay, so the question came in is, can a code be rendered in any format I want? Do you have how the product part of your code might look like?
Yeah, so for us, we didn't implement the out of the box quote template that comes with CPQ. So there is out of the box functionality where you can click a button and it generates a PDF of the quote. We didn't want to do that because we are very precious about our brand and the way we present ourselves. We're all colorful and things. I mean, look at our SOW, it has to have color in it. We're kind of precious about that. You could use out of the box functionality and create a quote PDF. And that's what you could use to send to your clients. It's just that that wasn't how we wanted it to work, basically.
Can I add a follow-up to that? Did you use another third-party app to render a quote that looked, you know, how you wanted it to look? Or does CPQ have formatting tools in which you can change what the out-of-the-box thing looks like to something totally different?
You can change it. I liken it to kind of like a DocuSign template where you can change the template. It just didn't give us the creative look and feel that we wanted. When we don't actually generate a quote that the user would see before they see this. So if I go back to, it always opens it on the other screen. So when I go back to my task options here, oh, it's not going to show it now. So before there was an option called send for external review. And what that does, it emails the user a Word copy of the SOW. So that's what we use to show the client before they actually sign, and they can redline that. So if they redline that Word document and send it back, that automatically triggers a legal review. So we don't send pricing quotes per se. It's just, here's a Word version of what I'm going to send you for signature unless you want to change anything. We use all of the functionality in CLM to do that.
Thank you.
Any follow-up, Barbara?
No, thank you.
Great. Well, Jennifer, I just want to say that it shows that you guys care about your branding, your UI everywhere. It's beautiful, the fonts, the colors, everything. I have a few questions about your e-commerce tool, which looks like a visual force, right? So it's built on Salesforce, even though, again, it looks very cool with all the branding. So is this tool just for internal users, or is it for external users as well, for your customers?
Okay, so the vision of the tool.
I ask something? That is not
There's a story here. So the vision of the e-commerce tool was to have a tool that we could invite clients to kind of, hey, why don't you like kind of configure your own quote and kind of add things, and you kind of configure, you kind of like, when you buy something online, and I can remember the last time I bought a car, I went in and like, do I want leather seats? Do I want, and you kind of pick and choose until you get to the price that you're looking for. That was the original intent. Once it was built, and it's so complex that it's not something that I think we would ever give to a client to configure their own quote. So that's why it was built on Force.com and not Experience Cloud, which I think would have been the better fit if we actually would have said, yes, this is 100% something we want clients to log into and kind of play around and configure their own quotes. So.
Okay, that makes complete sense. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah.
And I have just a question, curious, because everything we built, or when I was working on the company as an internal employee, I was curious, what does it take to support this? Right. So how many admins do you have to support, let's say, your CPQ, your CLM, and your e-commerce, or admins and developers?
Okay, so we are going through a bit of a transition period. So up until this point, we had outsourced some of our, I would say, very routine admin, new users, onboarding, offboarding, like those kinds of things. We had an offshore team that we had an admin to do the basics, answer the basic user requests, and a developer an admin and developer were outsourced, and an admin for Financial Force. So we're in the process of bringing those roles in-house. In addition to that, we have a data quality person that straddles Salesforce, Financial Force, Tableau, other things. So I'd say she's maybe 25% dedicated to Salesforce. We have a full-time project manager, 2 other admins. We're hiring a 3rd admin. We're hiring a CLM admin. So it's a lot. And actually that kind of goes into our lessons learned. We didn't realize what we were going to need to truly support the solution that we were implementing. At the time, it was me and 1 admin, and I kind of prided myself on us just being kind of lean and mean and scrappy and throw anything at us so we can figure it out. But once we signed the paperwork and we started doing all of the planning for the kickoff, we scrambled to get someone to fill that CLM admin role. And it was someone who was in sales operations that was very interested in Salesforce. And we said, well, can you help us out here first? And he did. So we launched with me as the product owner, 1 Salesforce admin, 1 CLM admin. And it wasn't enough.
Right, and it's growing, and now you have 2 product owners, correct? Yourself and Peter.
Adam is the Financial Force product owner, and then we'll have 4 admins by the time we fill all of these roles. So our lead admin does, I'd say 75% of his time is CPQ. It's just the bulk of the work.
And you mentioned that your company overall is very oriented on KPIs and making sure the performance is tracked. So what would you say is the efficiencies that realized through implementation of CPQ and CLM?
The approval times, I'd have to go back and look, but they went from weeks to like 24 hours. It was crazy, just getting those automations to the right inbox. And we were also able to assign approvals based on document type. So for example, on the legal team, there's 1 woman who specializes in NDAs. Well, we can set it up so all the NDAs go immediately to her. So the team isn't distracted by things that they don't need to be focused on. So we really improved that. Pricing errors went down. I'd have to look to see, but we really reduced things not being priced correctly. And a lot of that it was because people were referring to pricing that was outdated. You know, I downloaded the pricing sheet. Let me just save that locally. We would update things in the template gallery and they're not using those. I mean, it was just kind of crazy, but I can go back and get you more specifics, but.
No, this is great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, the UI UX is lovely here. All right, I'll let Bob know. Maybe somebody else have any other questions.
I really don't have any questions because I was texting Alicia. I had to miss part of the demo because I had to take a call, but I will have to watch the video for the demo.
Anybody else have anything? I know we're a little bit past time here. Oh, excellent. I was about to ask about lessons learned, but here you are, all prepared, Jennifer. Go ahead.
I'll try to go through quickly. I would say the most of the lessons learned came from pre-engagement. This was by far the largest thing we had done to date, especially since we were implementing 2 solutions that had to be integrated and working together. We vetted the partner, but we didn't vet individual team members, which I wish we would have, because we had 2 consultants. Well, we had more than that, but we had one who was the lead CPQ and one who was the lead CLM. And it was very apparent that the person who was leading CLM hadn't done a lot of implementations, even though the partner we worked with was like whatever partner level for both CPQ and CLM. So the company was very experienced as a whole, but not all of our team members were. So now we vet who you putting on our team. Can we see some resumes? Great. Also, we had to reduce the scope. We had a set budget, you know, with the licensing and the implementation cost, it was over. We cut things out. We could have done a better job of saying, here's what we're not going to get now. So when we did the first round of reviews, you know, we had the stakeholders in, okay, we're going to sign off before we do the next sprint. I remember our commercial lead was like, this is not what Salesforce demoed. What is this? And then we had to go back and say, well, we're going to do a phase 2. So we could have been a lot more clear, and also understanding what work would be performed by our internal team. The expectation was that we were going to configure all of the products, and we're like, we don't know CPQ. Like, you at least have to configure one to show us what we're doing, and then we can configure other ones that are similar. So we really didn't have the best understanding of what we were really getting into. And then, as I mentioned before, we do have some custom objects that support the solution. At that time, we had people that were on restricted licenses. So the next time we went to increase our licenses, you know, my account lead is calling me going, you're out of contract. And I was like, what are you talking about? So yeah, so we were scrambling to renegotiate our contract right in the middle of, you know, post-launch. And then just understanding long-term the external resources that we needed. I think the amount of money that we cut out of the initial budget, we ended up spending in a phase 2 shortly after launch, because we didn't have the resources in-house to do the work. So, you know, it's kind of like all comes around. Some of the things I think we did really well, we structured our project team with a representative from all of the capabilities involved, and basically said, we need your involvement. We're going to be making decisions. If you can't commit, please assign someone from your team, and know that anytime that they're signing off on something, they're signing off from your team. That's how we see it. So that worked really well, just holding each team accountable, and really clearly defining who's responsible, who's accountable, who's going to be informed, all of that. And I would say work with a partner who isn't afraid to challenge you. I'm not talking about working with someone who's horrible to work with, but we got the most value out of them asking why. What are you trying to solve? And it'd be like, no, you don't need a field. Here's what you need. I mean, we were kind of like users, our users coming to us going, we need a new field. You don't need a new field. That kind of thing. And then change management. I think we could have done a better job of engaging people earlier in the process. Those that were, once we got to UAT, they were great champions and saying, oh no, this is the way you should do it. And kind of being an advocate in sessions where we didn't have people that were involved along the way. It just didn't go as well. You know, people are resistant to change, and when you don't have someone who's a peer that's like, oh, no. That was a noticeable deterrent. And we formed a champions group, which we use to this day, which is fantastic. So we have representatives from each capability. We meet with them 1 week before we do our sprint planning and just say, here's what we're working on, just making sure this ladder's up to your priorities. And sometimes there are competing priorities, and we let them figure out amongst themselves, okay, business, you tell us, these are the things that they can't all be top priority. So that's worked really well. And it's been interesting because we thought teams that work closely together didn't. And so now we're the conduit for teams working closely together. It's like, okay, you just guys talk it out, and you just come to a decision, and we're happy to support you. And I would say over communicate. I think I talk a lot about Salesforce internally, but I'm always surprised where people are like, oh, I didn't know. When did that launch? A month ago? Where have you been? And then in terms of deployments, some of the feedback we got was we should have launched in just the US and then figured out all the bugs and then launched everywhere else, which I get, but it wouldn't have worked because one of our mantras is one Jellyfish. Everyone does their time the same way. Everyone, you know, there should be one process. And I think our team would have gotten really hung up in the user support because, you know, at the beginning, you're going to spend a lot of time hand holding and then things kind of die off as people get used to the process. And I think if we would have staggered it, there never would have been that dying off time. So as much as we bit off more than we could chew, and we did, we got through it. And I think it was just better than if we had staggered it out. But we do soft launch in a way where we initially didn't require quotes to close an opportunity. We let people get used to it. And then we gave a date. Okay, now we're taking this away. You have to have it. You have to have it by this date. And the same thing with the templates. There was like a period where, okay, we're going to have the template gallery here. And then now we're not. So that's worked well. And just, I spend a fair amount of my time doing continuous user adoption monitoring, calling out people that aren't following the process in a good way. And sometimes it's technical issues. Oh, it didn't work, so I did it this way. Well, you have to let me know if there's an error so I can fix it.
Jennifer, you know, this one slide that you have right here, this could be the whole presentation because, yeah, because seriously, I'm like shaking my head because I finished a major project in January and all of these things, right? And then especially like, you know, the change management and the, you know, some of the stuff like deployment. So what I want to know, like under change management, you said, write the change management story from the perspective of the user. What do you mean? Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, so, you know, with the initial implementation, it was very much, we can't have pricing errors. And our legal team needs to know if we're changing a term and condition. But we didn't want it to be, oh, you guys are messing up. You know, it had to be like, here's what we're doing for you. We are automating the process so you can get your approvals faster. You don't have to manually create the templates each time. We're bringing in data that you've already entered somewhere along the way. And we're taking the responsibility off your shoulders for being a contract specialist. That's not your job. Your job is to service our clients. We want you to spend more time selling and servicing than we want you to be creating contracts. So we had to change it from here's what the business needs to here's how we're making your life easier.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, this is really, yeah. This whole slide, I think if you take each block and turn it into a discussion, this could be a whole presentation that I would love to hear the whole thing because it sounds so it's like a lot of people do projects and there are always difficulties, but you have recognized them and then you have put them down. So this is really, you know, very, very valuable for anybody doing any kind of project.
Yeah. And it's something that we've shared with the broader team too, because, you know, these are just two platforms that the operations team manages. There's a lot more.
Yeah.
Barbara, go ahead.
So did CPQ, like, was that a good choice? Like, is there stuff that you can't do with CPQ? Like, I'm working on a project that's very, very complex, and we're very new to the project. We have a CPQ expert on the project, but I'm not quite sure he truly can figure this out. And I'm wondering if CPQ can deliver.
Yeah.
So are you finding yourself that CPQ can do it, or do you have to do some other custom code to make it all work?
Yeah, so the only code that we've had to do is the custom object that has all of the pricing because of the complexity of the Google tech, where, to give you an example, we base our fees for Google Analytics on the number of impressions that the hits they're going to get on their website. So there's ranges, And then there's percentages with each range. And then we also had to have the ability to have the user change those percentages, because sometimes Google would say, hey, we're gonna allow you to sell this at a loss because we want that brand or we want that client. So we had to have a custom object that had that kind of flexibility. That was the only real limitation that we were able to get around. The way the options and the features work, it is just a great fit for how we configured our services. So it's easy now that we have, like, if the product team, we have a team that owns product strategy. If they come to us and say, hey, we're releasing a new creative and experience product, we go, okay, great, let's brief it in. And we've already done enough that we have a template that's going to work for whatever they give us. So we've been happy with the solution.
Okay, thank you.
All right, last chance for everyone to ask the questions. I also posted link to Jennifer's LinkedIn in the chat here. So if anyone wants to connect and continue the conversation in the LinkedIn. Yes, Jennifer?
Yeah, I was just going to say, Barbara, if you want to, I can introduce you to our CPQ admin, who is far more versed in the technical side of things. If you did want to bounce some questions, happy to make the introduction.
That would be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. We're doing benefits, and like health benefits alone is like, it's crazy. There's this whole underwriting thing with risk and tiers, and it's mind-boggling, really and truly. And I'm just like wondering, can the CPQ thing do it? And so that would be great to bounce off some ideas, and yeah, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Sure, happy to help.